was it like being back home to kind of jump into it after, you know, being in the US for what was that like your longest US tour that you've done so far?
Yeah, that was like my first proper one because I've been to the US before in 2019. But I did like Afropunk. I did another show in LA and one in Oakland. But I think in total I did like 6 or 7 shows, and I had like anchor gigs. So I had anchor festivals to like one in the East Coast, one in the West Coast. But it was almost like an in and out like situation. I didn't really get to like see the country and like meet like the people the same way that I just like happen to do that now, because I was there for a month and I had like a lot of shows, but I had like a day or two in each city to just like experience it. So this felt like my first proper time in America.
For you, I mean, I think we even talked about when I saw you in DC, we were talking about just how big the US is.
Yeah.
And how it's one of those things, man, where it's as Americans, I don't think we always remember how big and like just ridiculous it is that, you know, our country is such a giant place. But yeah, I mean, it must be odd coming to tour. And it's like, I mean, because it's kind of like going to, like, doesn't it kind of feel like going to a bunch of different countries, even though it's all
it
America?
Does, man. It really does. Like, that's why, like, it feels like it's just like it's more of a continent. Because like all the states have like different laws and different rules, and they feel different too. So it as much as they called states, like to me, it felt more like different countries. Like, it's a different vibe in California versus where you're in somewhere else. And it's like being able to experience that and not like, I guess, understanding like the nuance and maybe understand the nuance a bit more, maybe understand like different like cultures a bit more, and how the sort of cultures like oriented to a place. Like, that was interesting for me. It's like, oh no, this is a Philly vibe. This is a, you know, and yeah, it was just like very eye-opening, because when I was going there, I was just telling myself that I didn't want to create or do anything. I just wanted to experience the place almost like a tourist.
Yeah.
You know, so have that thing where I just tried to remain open to like new experiences, but like everything was just like, so it was like, Texas is far. And you know, and when you hear about these places, like, I don't know, you always think they're closer than what they actually are. So it was like mad interesting, man.
Yeah. Well, and I got to imagine musically too, because the music you make, you know, has so many different influences like sprinkled in, and you can hear you like referencing different styles and cultures and all that. But then, like you were saying, like, you know, going to Philly or Baltimore or whatever, and like hearing like club music or house music in Chicago, at least for me, like when you're in the actual place the music comes from, it kind of, at least for me, like I get a different kind of understanding of it, you know?
Yeah, you do. Like it becomes like more, I don't know, it's just, it has like the energy that you felt as the listener, you get to actually be in it. You know, so that was like really like just like a powerful feeling I had. I was in New York, and Juan Atkins had a show, and I went to go check his set out, and I was just like I was doing things like that, you know, trying to immerse myself in this music culture that I love so much and actually experience it. Because I'm a fan first, you know, like I love music. Like, that's why I mix all these things in, because I love all of them. And being in the actual place, just like, I don't know, it just made it, I felt good, you know?
Yeah.
It felt good. I was like, oh man, I can't believe my music has gotten me here, you know, like that. It was a dope feeling.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, even like the most recent song you put out, A Day in Chicago, I mean, was that inspired by actually going to Chicago?
Yeah, like I was like, yo, I'd been listening to this type of music for so long, and I know so many like subgenres like taken from it, even like locally. And the day that it dropped was the day I got to Chicago. So it was just like that whole thing. I was like, I need to make a track like specifically for that, just for me and like the kid in me that fell in love with this type of music.
Yeah.
Obviously having my own twist in it, but like it was just like, I don't know, like paying homage to that and that culture of like dance music.
Well, so maybe that's a good way to talk about early days, because I wonder, coming up in South Africa, and am I right that like where you were born and raised was kind of like a smaller town? Like,
yeah.
So how were you getting this music? How was it reaching you when you were younger? Because it sounds like you've always been interested in a lot of different sounds and styles.
Yeah.
How was it getting to you when you were a kid?
I come from a very like musical family. So like some people, like my mom was like a singer, like not like she didn't get to like a professional level, but it's what she loved.
Yeah.
And my dad happened to just like collect vinyls. Like, he was a big collector of vinyls, and he actually played like the first pieces of like electronic music I ever heard was from him. And some of it was compilations, like bump compilations and all of that. And sometimes it would actually be like the actual album, because he'd buy like the vinyl just in case it looked cool or whatever. And then, so that's how I got into like hearing Daft Punk when I'm a kid and like 7 or whatever. And I'm hearing that, and I'm hearing Fateless at home. Obviously, DJ Sammy, because it's like there's a bump compilation there too.
That's a banger,
So from that, so that's like from my dad. But then my brothers were into like hip hop, so I'm also hearing like a lot of like hip hop music at home. And then my other brother liked Linkin Park, so I'm hearing Linkin Park also, and I'm hearing these different like types of music. And I'm at the time like I'm listening to like I like Coldplay, like I love Coldplay, so still do. And so like all of these different influences sort of, I don't know, like subconsciously played a role, I guess, with regards to how I heard the music, because I'm only able to differentiate it now because I'm older. But when I was a kid, I was just hearing music.
Right.
I wasn't really trying to say, oh, this is dance music, this is hip hop, this is jazz, I was just like listening to the whole thing. And I guess that sort of informed how I became when I was creating. I don't see the sort of rules or the like, I just see the connecting dots. Like if I hear a four to the floor, like sort of drum programming, like that's what I'm hearing. I'm not hearing just because it's dance music or it's hip hop or whatever.
Right.
I mean, so it's like,
sometimes I feel like we know too much now. You know what I mean? Because I think what you're talking about, that innocence of being a kid and not knowing that you're supposed to, put things in boxes or group different things together. That's when all the best or like most interesting creative choices can be made,
Yeah, because you're constantly in this thing of like, you're already like, you're in such a free sort of creative space because you're not doing it based on particular genre rules. Like say a genre rule is a build-up.
Right.
Then now to me it always felt like, oh snap, that is like a box. Yeah. So no matter how I want to arrange the track, I have to arrange a build-up somewhere. I'm like, right. Kind of don't like build-ups, I do.
Or maybe it just doesn't, like, maybe that's not the best thing you could do for this particular idea or whatever it is.
Yeah, and then it always used to bring about the question, oh, so then do I drop it then? Because right. What am I gonna call it and all of these things? And then I just try to focus on the actual idea and keeping it as that, regardless of what like genre it is or it sounds like. Like as long as it's me honestly expressing myself, like I'm cool with that. So I try to always keep that like kid in me alive, like when I actually fell in love with the art form.
Do you think about or worry about or even consider like where your music fits in? Like, do you see yourself?
No.
Okay. I kind of figured that was the answer.
No, man. Like life is too short, bro. Like, I'm just creating, I'm just creating. I'm just going to make what I make. If it lands, cool. If it doesn't land, cool. Like it's a very purest way, I guess, of looking at things, but it's what I fell in love with.
Yeah.
You know, I fell in love with like the feeling part of it, or hearing some like French house, and I didn't know any French, but like I just love the feeling of the song. And which is why even now, like I sing some of the songs in my own language, because it's like, if you get the feeling, then you know, like your feeling will lead you to knowing what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, essentially.
I think that's,
and also
yeah.
it creates.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, and also it creates like just a conversation, you know, of asking questions. What does this mean? Or what does that mean? So just like that, I don't know, purity thing is something that I never want to like water down.
Yeah.
Which is a risk.
Well, yeah, it's a risk, but I think it's also, I think you're right that people can tell. Like, I don't think listeners get enough credit for intuition. Like, because I think anyone, even like the most basic listener who doesn't know anything about music or the artist they're listening to, I think kind of on a like just human level, you can kind of connect to if something was made authentically or not.
Yeah.
You know, whatever that means to you or to the person. Like, I don't know. It makes me think about when I did see you in DC, and I hope it's okay to say this, but you know, like it wasn't like the craziest packed out, sold out show. But
of course it's okay.
yeah.
It's the truth.
No, of course. But what was kind of amazing to me was at the end, you finished your set, and the people who were there, it was like a 1 minute, 2 minute long like applause, and they wouldn't let you leave the stage, and like they like forced you to do an encore almost. And it was like that level of passion and connection with what you were doing, kind of regardless of the audience size. I was like, man, I've seen a lot of people perform. You don't see reactions from crowds like that very often.
Yeah. I think it's it is that for me, you know, like I don't know if it's from like this weird like I don't know, reverse like imposter syndrome thing or whatever that I have. It's like I need to know that I'm living my truth.
Yeah.
And that needs to always be like the sort of case for me. So when I'm performing, like I understand that this is a gift, you know, I understand that I'm far away from home. I understand that not all shows will be packed. I'm aware of that. Like it's life, you know, but for the people that did come there, I have to do that for them.
Right. I
have to do that for myself. I have to walk off that stage and be like, oh yeah, that was a great performance. That was a great show, regardless of who like was watching. Because I know a lot of artists will be like, maybe if they're playing for like 10,000 people, then they bring out all the energy, they bring out the guitars, they bring out all of that. And then when you're playing for like maybe 1,000 people or 500 people, you're sort of just like doing this like normal set or whatever. I'm not like that. You know, if it's one person, I've played in a room that had one person. I've played in a room that had 40,000 people. You know, like I've played a place that have 20,000 people. Like it differs, but my energy and what I do on that stage is something that I always need to honor, like from like a gift perspective.
Yeah.
So I give it my all, regardless.
And I think it comes through, man. I mean, I think that's why you get those kinds of reactions. I mean, it was cool because I didn't, you know, I hadn't seen you play before, so I didn't really know, like, if it was going to be like you on the mic the whole time, like as a front man, or you as a DJ, and it was kind of this interesting hybrid. And you were performing some of your own songs, you were just DJing some of your own songs, and then you were throwing in other songs that were kind of unexpected to me too, like some older music. Some styles I wasn't expecting. It's some stuff I didn't recognize, but kind of sounded like it was from the 80s. Like, yeah,
definitely.
It was interesting, man.
Definitely.
Like, have you always done that? Like, do you always approach your performances kind of from that like a DJ mentality, like a curator mentality?
Yeah, because I started because I was obviously like making beats, and I think the first time we like heard of each other, I was still just DJing, right? So like, and then I did a show where they cut my set, and they had like, sometimes they put like the DJ booth in like the dark, like
oh yeah,
part of the
off
stage
to the side.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah, off to the side. So they had that, and then I figured that if I only had like a few minutes, then a DJ set wouldn't work, obviously. So I just like grabbed the mic and I performed one of my songs, and then that sort of felt good, felt organic to me, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm gonna do. And with also like the 80s being like my favorite era, like there's this like thing that I like where it wasn't perfect. It wasn't like it was more like feeling oriented. Again, going back to that like sort of feeling thing, like it was more that than it was like quantized, proper, perfect. I don't like personally. I don't get inspired by perfect things or things that try to be perfect. I like risky. I like confidence. I like So even with the performance, it's just that it's like I love DJing, so it's still like I still like go by like these like rules of DJs. The original DJs were playing new music to people, so I have to constantly play new music, whether that's my music or music that people have never heard, even if it's like from songs from home or whatever. So I'll go with that. But I'm also trying to like tell the story, of like who I am as a person with the whole rule break thing. So the same thing I do in a song where you put multiple genres, I'm literally doing the same thing on stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, earlier you said like you'll do some songs like in your own language that maybe if you're somewhere across the ocean, maybe not everyone understands the words, but they connect to the feeling of it. And I think it's the same thing with DJing for me, man, because I relate to what you're saying. For me, it's always been, and like this is kind of a pretentious thing for me to say, but I do really look at it as like a conversation with the audience,
Yeah.
It's like without me saying any words, it's kind of just like showing concepts and then kind of, leading people down like this line of ideas. And, not that like when we're performing, that's what we're thinking about in the moment, but I think that's what it really ends up being. I don't know. It's
it has to be. And I think maybe coming from just like making like producing and then going into DJing, I also see like the set as like this long song. I see it as this thing that needs to have ups and downs and needs to have like just like taking people on this journey, and like if you get good at performing, then whatever crowd you're in, they end up trusting you with regards to that journey, and that's all I have to do is like get the people, and then we all go along this like 1 hour journey, and it's like then it's beautiful at the end, because it's like an energy exchange. It is a conversation, which is why I can like perform in whatever number of crowds it is. Like I feel the same. Like I'm not scared of 30,000 people or whatever. When I've played that, I was like, oh my God, 30,000 people. Nah, same thing, because like it's still me, So I just like go and do my thing.
Yeah, absolutely. In some ways, it's counterintuitive, but in some ways, I think 20,000 people is less intimidating than like a smaller intimate show. Yeah.
It is. No, that part is true. Because like when you're doing like 100 people or 50 or 200 people, like a smaller crowd, like you're seing everybody.
Oh yeah, and they're seeing you too. It's like it's
and they see you, and it's like, and you're like, oh, Stan, But when it's a big crowd, like you can't really, you can see the front row and like a few people, but like after that, you can't really see the whole crowd. So it just, it's like a different energy to it.
Yeah, it is, man. And I like them both, like you said, but it's it's definitely different energies. I mean, were you, as a kid, always, well, I should just ask, like, what kind of a kid were you? Have you always had this energy of like a performer, somebody who wants to connect with people? Were you doing anything yourself musically when you were a kid?
No.
Great.
I was a nerd, man. I was a nerd. I was like quiet, keeping my thoughts like to myself. I think like that's the thing that helped with music. I was super like introverted, and I guess music just by not only like the art side of it, but the business side of it. Like you going out and meeting people and all of that sort of opened me up to actually like, I don't know, start interacting more with people and open up a bit more. But when I was a kid, I was just super quiet. Like I was just like academics. That's it. And watching a lot of cartoons.
Okay.
But like mad imagination. Like that's the one thing. Cause obviously I didn't grow up in like an affluent place. Like things were really bad at home financially. So, but like, I don't know. I was allowed to dream, you know, and
that's good,
so,
man.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're growing up in hard times, I mean, that makes me think that probably your parents did a good job in at least that aspect of, I don't know. Sometimes, sometimes when a kid grows up in rough circumstances, there just isn't time to dream or to be creative or any of that.
Yeah, you know, and like my mom would like shout at me for everything besides creating.
Okay.
Like she'd never get mad at like the music making or me being up and she finds me like making music as a teenager and stuff. Like she wouldn't be mad at that, but she'd get mad at like if I didn't wash dishes or whatever, you know. So it's like I don't know. I appreciate that now because it allowed me to just like, I don't know, like open my mind a bit more and see myself as a person of the world rather than like a person of like my circumstance. And that just allowed me to just see the world like this big ass like oyster.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. I could do that too. America's a plane ticket away, you know, like
right.
like breaking all these things down in my head.
Was that part of why you think you kind of went down this path? Was it to try to get out of those circumstances or to bet like, you know, when you were a kid, was the feeling kind of like, I got to get out of here?
Yeah. It was very much like therapeutic, you know, like I could create these worlds, you know, like, and I could, through like music, you know, when you make a song and you make it feel sad or you make it feel happy and like you listen to it and it really works.
Yeah.
It's like the best form of therapy, you know? So I think initially it was like, a way for me to escape. Like that's the music I was making. And then I think it got to a point where after I was doing like the bass stuff and staying in Berlin, and then I came back home. This is like 2015, 2016. Like so I'm starting my career, like I'm about to drop my first album, all of that stuff. And in that instance, I don't know, like something hit me that where I wasn't escaping from music anymore. Like I realized that I was like fine.
Oh yeah.
Like I was happy. I was in a good space, and I like I wasn't a tortured soul, man.
Right.
you know. So like it got to, and then when I got to that point, I was making music that helped me remember. So I was writing about my own stories,
that's interesting.
my own memories, and like my people and my culture, and you know, I started getting more confidence in that because I wasn't escaping anymore. So I was free in that regard. I could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah, that's so interesting, man. I feel like that's such that's a metaphor for so much of life. Is that, you know, we spend so much time trying to get away from something or trying to change something. And then when we finally do, kind of the next thing we do is like try to go back to what we just got out of.
It's like, oh yeah, that's me. That's who I am. It's like, no, it's not. Like that person is God, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just me understanding that, man. And it's been good ever since.
So how did you start making music? Like what age did you start making music?
I was 13. I started writing lyrics before like I actually made beats. So I was probably like 11 when I started writing raps. Yeah, I was like grade 6. Yeah, I was 11. I was writing raps and for my brothers because they used to rap and stuff. They used to do that.
Oh,
like,
so you were their ghostwriters?
So I was like ghostwriter. So like it was cool. And I just used to do that. And then my mom bought this like computer for us when we were kids, and my brother's friends installed like a cracked like version of like Pro Tools, like Fruity Loops, like all of them. And then I think I liked how easy it was for me to get ideas from my head to like hearing something on Fruity Loops. I liked it was I don't know, it felt more natural to me than the other ones. So I just stuck with Fruity Loops from that point onwards. And yeah, it was just like making beats every day, burning them onto a CD, and then listening to them on a hi-fi to just see what it sounds like.
And what was it hip hop stuff you were making? Like when you first started?
Initially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would listen to a lot of Pharrell and a lot of Timbaland. I was listening to a lot of that at the time, and a lot of Linkin Park. So I'm trying to be how I actually started was I'd put in a Linkin Park song and then I tried to recreate it. So like try to do these remakes.
That's the best. That's the best, man.
Yeah. So like as you're doing it, you're learning, right? So I'm doing these remakes, and then as I got into it, like the remix started sounding really good, and then I got to a point where it sounded exactly like that.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, now it's time to like actually start like doing my own stuff. But yeah, that was the early years.
That's really interesting, man. And you know, we talked about all these different sounds you were hearing at home from different family members and all that. And you know, and I can definitely hear that, like all those influences in the music you make now. But like you mentioned before, there's also like a lot of local culture, local sounds that you work into your music now. Was that like, you know, because we talked about when you were a kid, you heard all this stuff from other places. Were you also hearing local sounds when you were young?
Yeah. I guess everywhere, like radio, TV, like when you're a kid and maybe like you're with your mom and it's like a teenage kids party and they play music. There's DJs there, like house DJs, like people that go play at people's houses.
Right. Yeah.
Houses with each other. But like, so like I would hear all these things and I'd see these videos and I think, so all of it was just like coming at me, you know, and I've always been very open to like new things. Like I love learning, you know, I love being a student. I love always like just being in a place where I can absorb stuff rather than like be the one that's teaching or whatnot. So those years was just like me, like being like, oh, yeah, this sounds nice. Why does it sound nice? Is it the chords? Is it, you know, like, and you're trying to understand these things. So I was getting all of it at the same time. And I think even though I started, like when I started, I was doing these genres and I was in these sort of boxes. It got to like a point where I was confident enough to actually try my own version of these things. And I think that's what like people hear when they listen to my music, you know, because me too, I'd be like, yo, snap, okay, that's cool. You know, like, or okay, that's different or whatnot. But like, it's all because I don't know. It's I've just become this like weird melting pot of my childhood, of all my childhood musical experiences.
Which is good. I think that's what you're supposed to do. I think, and so you know, before that happened, like because you said that was sort of like it all started to come together after you moved away and came back. But you know, when I first heard about you, and I think when you and I first maybe like sent some DMs and all that. Was the Bundu Effects EP, which was that your first, like, was that the debut EP?
I guess it was, I think it was that. And it was like, just like, I used to do this thing where I'd make this like sort of crazy dubstepy, two-steppy, like bass music thing. And then in the middle, I'd put like this like really cool, like African sounding like bridge or like breakdown. And in my mind, like the middle part was what I always wanted to make, but I wasn't confident enough in that part of me at the time. You know, like I think I still needed to grow as a person, which is something I learned later. Because for the first half of like I guess me loving music, it was always growing as a musician. So I was very like technical about things, and then for like the second half of it, it was more so me. Like understanding that if I become a better human being, I'll become a better artist because I'll have better stories to tell. I'll tell them better. So all of those things. That was the process. So like when you met me, it was just like early days, like very much trying to figure it out. You know, like I heard some Skrillex, I heard Diplo. I was like, oh snap, I like what that sounds like, you know. And then I heard like Noisia and Feeder and
Yeah.
all of these guys, man. And it was just like, okay, cool. Let me try to do that. Let me just do it, like twist it in my own way. And then yeah, and I learned a lot from just doing that too.
Yeah, yeah. It's again, man, all that kind of stuff is a good exercise. And I think, when that happened, I don't know if that was like what, 2011 or 2012 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, something a long time ago. But the bass music scene, like the trap scene, the dubstep scene, all of that, there was such a cool energy at that time in that era. So like I get why you would be attracted to that, man, because it wasn't, for somebody to like just start making trap or dubstep now that kind of sounds like, what's popping. To me, like I get it, I guess, but to me, like back then, everything was new. Like that scene was
new.
Exploding.
Everyone was doing. Everyone that was coming through just had like a different twist to it.
Yeah,
and
you did too, man. Like I still
and
have
you, bro. And like thanks, it was just dope, bro. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was fun, man. And I mean, and that EP, even if, you look back on it maybe with a different perspective, like that was kind of the start of you becoming like a professional artist, right? As far as like, getting known and maybe playing some shows and touring a little bit. Did that all kind of start around that time?
Yes. All of it started around that time. And then I used to DJ and like play at a lot of like bass parties or electronic music festivals and stuff like that here at home. And yeah, that went on for like a while, like 2-3 years or something. I was like just doing that. And then Berlin is me still doing that.
So you moved to Berlin for a couple of years?
Yeah, I moved there for 2 years because I had the opportunity and I was just like, I wanna go see these synths, and not just like I guess program things, but actually see them. And Germany felt like the best place to see that. I could go to some of these factories. I could, just like actually see it being made.
Oh,
and
that's
how
interesting.
It works.
Yeah, that's true.
So I went to like a lot of the studios and again back to like studying. I'm studying and like they have their version of like techno. They're playing techno. Like I'm going to Berkay and I'm studying. I'm seeing the club culture. I'm seeing everything. And it's like, yeah. And then at the end of that, like it was clear how I saw myself. Because I guess those early years when you're trying to get in, like you're just trying to get in and you're not really seeing maybe your part in it in like the bigger scheme of things.
Right.
And after Berlin, I think I saw how I wanted to be seen, not only how people see me. And then that sort of just made the flip to me actually knowing who I am and my story at that time. And then just flowing with that.
That's really interesting, man. Because I think, obviously, like you're putting out albums with names like Afrovision and Interblaktic, and it's, it's like you are putting a flag down for like African sounds and music to a certain extent. And it must have been interesting to, come from South Africa and then go to Berlin, which I mean, Berlin's a fucking amazing city, but it's like the stereotype of like German people. It's like, it's very white,
Yeah, it is white.
Yeah, it's very white. And it must have been interesting for you, I guess, in that process of discovery.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. But like, I think Berlin was a place where I understood that the world was a plane ticket away. That's where I got it. Because when I went to some of the festivals or the 1st of May festival, when it's like the sun comes out and people go out into the streets and like they're playing music, like Berlin was a place that told me that one place could love different genres. Like, because they'd go to all the techno clubs, but then there'd also just like be people basking there and like they're supporting that. And there's like a rock festival, whatever happening, and people are supporting that. And it's like, oh man, no one actually likes one thing,
right.
So it was diverse in terms of like taste for me. And that's what I had to go and learn there. I had to go and see that so many things can coexist at the same time. Obviously, because I guess their market was like healthier and bigger and stuff like that. Whereas back at home, we have a smaller market, so things things can be oversaturated
Right.
at some points when the market is smaller. But when the market is bigger, there's more time for you to go around. You know, so I learned that in Germany, and it helped like a lot. I got to meet people that strictly just want hits. Like that's their whole aim, is to make the label happy, and they want hits. And I met people that were just like audiophiles,
right?
You know, and it's like, so having that whole spectrum of just like music people helped me tremendously.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. And when was it? Was it around that time when other people started taking notice of it? Because I think throughout your career, like there's really interesting intersections and probably a lot more that I don't know about. But like I watched a couple minutes of that documentary with you and Stormzy. And I read in an old interview a story about like you meeting the Prodigy. And, you know, then even up to today, amazing. Like you had Kaytranada on your last album, all of that. Like, how were other people finding out about your music? How are you linking up with like other artists who maybe weren't local to where you were?
The internet.
Sure. I mean, yeah, of course. But
the internet, like I know like what I am with regards to the type of artist I am, right? I know I'm not like circular or like mainstream type of artist. Like I do it for different reasons, right? And in knowing that, that means that I can't go through like the same avenues. I can't use the same things because they won't work for me. So we like I have a very good team, and like we mix things from the old with things from the new. So like obviously the internet works now, but also some things back in the day that worked we keep, right? So things like even word of mouth, things like me coming and like, or like coming to America and seeing people after the show and chilling and not just like leaving this artist or whatever. Like, you know, like, so there's my career has been very much like people led in that sense. You know, I've been independent the whole time, and I've chosen that route because it feels healthier to me and my mind, that I'm not chasing this thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I feel like that's probably why a lot of the people I just named and a lot of others are attracted to what you're doing, honestly.
Yeah.
Because,
because every time I meet like someone, like it's always like the most like human conversation you ever had. You know, it's just like, it's like this. It's fine. It's normal. There is no like ego or whatever, because maybe that's because like that's the energy I put out, or maybe that's the energy they yearn when you're in this thing called the music business, where we all know it's dark, you know. And for me, I didn't want that for myself, because I love the music so much. I don't want to ever get to a point where something outside of me is dictating how I make my music. So chose early to just like, I don't know, be human.
It's a good. It sounds so obvious, but not everybody makes that choice, man. Yeah,
you know, and it helped me a lot. Like I got a lot of good advice from Prodigy. I get a lot of good advice from Chris Martin.
Well, wait, let's tell those stories real quickly. Like, what was that? What was that meeting with the Prodigy? What was that?
Oh man, they were performing in Johannesburg. And it was actually my first like live concert. It was the first time I went to like a show. Yeah, I was like 23 or something, 22. Like, and my manager knew their manager back in the UK and stuff. So, and he actually booked the show. Yeah, he had booked the show. So we go there, and then they get us like just really nice, man. They got us like a limousine to like fetch us from where we were. And it was like, oh, this is so cool. So like gave me, because my manager John had told him that like, I think this is like my first show. So I think they took it upon themselves to like make it special, which is really dope.
Yeah.
So I got to watch them, and then afterwards they invited me backstage, and And I was just like asking questions. I remember the one question I asked him was like, how do you deal with that? Right? Because it's like 20,000 people out there like screaming your name and all that stuff. And then it was Maxim. Maxim was like, that guy that you just saw is not this guy. I left that guy on stage. And I got like that was like the first lesson I got from meeting a celebrity, I guess.
Right.
It's like that person that you saw on stage is not me. Like that's that thing. It's what I do. It's my job. It's what that thing on stage is. But when I'm off, myself.
Yeah. It's like you said, man, and just being human. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really fire, like for me to hear. And like, because obviously you don't know how people are. Like you can see them on TV all you want, but but when you meet them, they could be like different. So yeah, there's things like that, man. Like the Prodigy, those super nice to me. Super nice.
And then what about Chris Martin and Coldplay? Because I mean that you mentioned you were listening to them as a kid, and you went on to not only like remix them, but then Chris Martin was even like featured on your shit, right?
Yeah. So like that is like there's a big artist here called Shoma Josie. I don't know, I'm sure you've heard of her. Like Shoma Josie called me this one night and she's like, come to the studio, right? It's like okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I go to her, and when I see her, like she had like a studio set up at her house. And then there, Chris is there. I'm like, oh snap, this is crazy. oh snap. And it was like a chat. I didn't know.
Yeah,
right?
That's crazy.
So it's all cool. So like we're just like all like jamming, like Chris just chilled, like told us about they were gonna do Global Citizen, and you're telling us about like who's gonna come there and perform and what they're trying to do and all that stuff. Like really, really interesting. And we're just chilling there, like having a jam session. I didn't even want to create. Like I was like, it's cool. Like when you meet people and then they try to take advantage of the opportunity
right, exactly.
immediately. I was like, nah, man, like it's good enough that we're actually meeting. And obviously I tell him, bro, I love your music, all that stuff. And it was really cool. And then a few months passed and I was playing in Paris. I had a show in Paris. I was doing an Afropunk Paris. And then I did that show, went well, and then after my gig, Chris Martin was waiting for me backstage, and I didn't know he was in the crowd, so I was like, "Oh, snap!
Right,
yo, good to see you again." And he's like, "Yo, man, that's one of the best things I've ever seen." I'm like, "Oh, snap!" So then that's how the remix comes about, because then that's where he asked me backstage. He's like, "Do you guys want to do a remix?" Do we want it? Yo, like send us that thing, So he sends us sends us an email. We get to do that, and then later on, I dropped an album called Zeno, named after my daughter, and his favorite song on there was a song called Sondela, and then he wanted to play piano over it, so he did that. Then we made, and then he called it Sondela Forever, and then I was just like, yo, we should drop this. Like, this is like, okay, cool. And then so it was just like the most like organic thing, man. Like even now in America, we're supposed to link up, but he also like they had like a Coldplay tour, like huge. So, but he's been like a really good friend, man. Like he's been really cool.
That's great, man. I love hearing those stories, especially about, the bigger names that I've never met or don't know, because you never know when you're meeting like someone of that level of celebrity, because I think it's either one of two things. Either they're like the nicest, most down-to-earth person ever, or they're like just the craziest, like most lost person,
there's no in between. It's either
there's no in between, man. Never. It's crazy.
Man. Yeah. What's some of the advice that you've gotten from like someone that's like, I guess, big, like in like celebrity land or whatever, or someone that you looked up to and then you got to meet them?
Part of it is what you were saying earlier, which isn't even advice I was told, but just from watching people operating at that level. Like I think about a guy like Skrillex, who, we're casual friends, but we don't know each other that well. But every time I'm around him, I just watch the way he treats other people and the level of interest he has in other people, regardless of whether they're a big celebrity or just some random person. Like, he treats everybody the same. And I noticed that from the first time I met him. And I've definitely tried to hold that true. Another one, I guess, now that you got me thinking, one time I was emailing with Diplo, and I was like, we were working on some Major Lazer stuff, and I was like kind of young, and I didn't really know how the business works, and I was just being a little too like, just like, what's next? What do I do now? You know, but like just asking too many questions and wanting things to happen faster than they were going to happen, and he was just like, I forget exactly what he said, but more or less he was just like, yo, chill out, man. Like, it'll be fine. and like, it was kind of what I needed to hear. And it was true. Yeah. And I think about that all the time, because it's like, it's more about establishing the connection with the person. Like you were saying with Chris Martin, it's not about like, oh, we have to do this right now. And, you know, that I think that's basically what he was saying to me too, is like, yeah, man, we're like, this is an ongoing thing. So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think it is a thing where like when people maybe like meet like people like that, they forget how many other people want things from them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then you're coming there and you're like, I want this.
Yeah. That's like, so true.
It's like, I don't even know you yet, bro. Like, you know, so like that's a dope one, man. That's a good one.
Well, yeah, and what you just said too, I think is maybe even a better way to do that is like, don't ask people for shit. Like, just show up and show what you do and be cool. Yeah. And if what you do is appealing to people, like, they'll tell you, you know?
Of course. And I think it makes room for like a more like a longer relationship.
Yes.
For instance, you know, because like sometimes when you're, I guess when you jump the gun, like you risk never having a relationship with that person again. Even if maybe you say you'll get to make one song and then that's it.
Right.
So you never really get to build, you know, because of that sort of sense of urgency to get someone to do something for you.
Absolutely.
And for me, I've just like, I've learned that like the best way is to just be yourself. And like, if you're aligned with that thing, it'll happen. Not to say that you don't knock on doors, obviously, but like, it's more so, I don't know, more so longevity wise. That's how I'm programmed. I think I like having things that last.
Yeah, of course, man. And I think you can apply that not even to like working with some big famous person. It's kind of doing anything with anybody.
Anything.
Yeah, like anyone you're collaborating with or working with in any capacity. That for me, I just want people to have a good experience with it. Like anyone I work with on any level doing anything, it's just like, I want them to walk away being like, that was cool. That was fun. You know?
Yeah.
Because then not only are they going to be more excited about whatever it is that we did together, but you know, you never know what's going to happen.
They're the ones that are going to be like, what's next?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that's the thing. Then they want to come hang out with you more. And that's really all I want. It's like, for me, it's much more about like, having
it's like getting a girl. It's like getting a girl, bro. Like, you don't push that.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It's absolutely
you just
true.
Be, man. Just be, bro. And you know. Yeah. So like that's it's like these lessons, man. Like I think the whole industry for me is just like, it's cool to learn. Like, touring in America is like a whole different ball game. Like, you know, like even that was like interesting. Like, people take buses, trains, flights, all of that. Like, and we have like a public transportation system, but it's not as like not everyone uses it like the same way that it is in America. So like, it was really interesting to see that. you know, like some people going like, oh, why do I need a car? I'm in New York.
Right.
I don't need a car. And then you see so many cars on the road. You're like, so
yeah, they're
what
trying
is it?
to cut
You know?
down, but it's not really going so well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like just like seeing how venues work or how different promoters are, and like hard tickets, so say soft tickets, doing all of that and just like learning.
Man, well, you just made me think of when I was watching that little like Red Bull doc with you and Stormzy, when Stormzy came to see you in Johannesburg and you were taking him around, just talking about like transportation. Something I didn't know, this is kind of random, but I just thought it was really interesting, was you guys were talking about like the taxi culture there.
Yeah.
And that, just for people who might not know, can you talk a little bit about like the connection between like music and the taxi culture in Johannesburg? Because I thought that was really interesting.
We were in Durban when we were doing that.
Durban.
But like it's all over the country. Like there was a point with taxi drivers, so like a taxi is a minibus, like 16 people, 16 passengers, like, yeah, and it takes people from township to where the job is or where the mall is or whatever. So it's like transportation.
Yeah.
But like there was a point, because like they did that a lot, there was a point where they were like the coolest guys, like ever. Like taxi drivers got the money, taxi driver gets the girls, taxi driver's cool, famous, so everyone knows them.
Yeah, they were like tricking out their cars too, right?
Yeah, you know, so they do that, like and you put up these like speakers and stuff, and then it got to this point where if there was a hot song, you'd hear it in a taxi. Like loud as fuck, like what's your time from school? It's just like you're taking the taxi home and it's just like blaring like the latest home song or whatever. And in that, they sort of became these like tastemakers, if you will, you know, where your song, if your song was playing in taxis, like you knew your song was big,
right?
You know, so that thing was like it'd almost be like how maybe in America there'd be like a street record and
for sure. Record. I mean, it makes me kind of think about like strip club culture in Atlanta, because it sounds kind of similar where like, you know, a rapper would make a song and they'd take it straight to the strip club that night to see, you know, how it would go there. I mean, was that a thing where were people like bringing taxi drivers their music?
Of course. Yeah. So it's like it becomes a distribution cycle, almost, you know, like it becomes that. And at the time, people were still like burning. Remember, like Nero, and would burn these CDs and stuff. So you just get a rewritable, you burn your music on there, and then people will go and actually like give it to the taxi drivers, because through that you get gigs.
Wow.
And you can start making money and stuff like that. So it's a very like interesting way.
Yeah, it's
like an independent way.
It's fast. No, and I love that kind of like, because there's probably nowhere else in the world that has that, you know.
Yeah,
that's so
crazy.
Interesting.
It's really cool.
Yeah, man. Is it still like that? Does that still happen?
Yeah, it does. But I think now, because obviously like the internet is a bit more available to everyone, like things are sort of like changing. Obviously, your TikToks still mean the same thing that they mean everywhere else in the world. If the song is big there, it's big everywhere. But I think there's still like a subculture. You know how like these subcultures actually make the culture,
right?
Like, so I think there's still that, definitely.
That's interesting, man. I mean, it makes me wonder actually, because we've been talking about how the music you make pulls from so many different threads, and that I think it sort of translates cross-culturally really well. But it makes me wonder, like, how is it received at home? Like, do you perform a lot locally, or is it? Yeah,
I do. It's again, it's not like, I guess, mainstream, because at home I'm like seen as like an alternative artist, right? Just because we're sort of like just doing things differently than like main market, but we do sort of main market and alternative sort of does cross-pollinate, like, and so that's where we sort of are with it, you know. Like I play the like Rockin' the Daisies is one of the biggest festivals in this country. I played it like 3 times. Like I do my own shows. You have like 1,000 kids coming there. Like I've done a few shows like that. I've done a one-man show. I just like do really cool things with like my friends, and it's working.
That's great, man.
And there's like a whole circuit of us, like other artists, like fashion designers, like brand managers, or guys that have started their own ad agencies, promoters. But it's all like this like alternative circuit, and we all just trying to push that thing, and it's working out.
That's so cool, man. Part of the reason I asked is I don't know if you know the artist John Casey. He's a South African dude. I think he lives in Johannesburg. He's a young guy, but he's making like, bass music, like heavier trap kind of stuff. And I was talking to him like a month ago, and he was saying that like it's hard for him to play locally because he felt like the scene for what he was doing there was a lot smaller. But then, he would go travel and like go to America or somewhere else, and it would be this like crazy, like thousands of kids and all that. And so I just always wonder, because for a lot of people, it's like you kind of have to, and it was the same for me. Like when I was living in Chicago, it's like I kind of had to leave Chicago for a while and come back before Chicago really gave me the love,
Yeah, no, definitely. I think even for me too, that happened. But like everyone leaves, right? Like there's a thing like where I guess once you realize that your market is small and that it's going to be like so much harder for you to get like a track to break through or something like that, or so much harder for you to play certain places, you leave. Like you get a visa, you go somewhere else where you're going to be appreciated. And all of us have had like that similar thing. Like even before my time, it's always been that way. But my thing is like, I don't want to leave like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to like fully go and like not inspire the people that I'm actually like doing this thing for, So the message of home is important, because like if we all keep on leaving, then there'll never be any infrastructure for us to have that. So I chose to build it. Like I do my own shows. Like I was like, okay, no one's booking me. I'm going to book myself.
Right.
And I'm going to bet on myself, and I'm going to work hard and do pamphlets and all these things that right now look stupid, but they actually still kind of work.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's like, so I'm not ashamed of that part of the grafting. I know that the market needs to be created, but I also know that I'm not the only one that thinks like that. So if you get our heads around with a few people, then maybe we could make that happen, because everyone loves what's cool.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, man. No, and I think that's, like investing in yourself and investing in like the community that you want to see. That's that kind of idea I talk about a lot on this show. Yeah. Because in the States, it's like everyone's like, I got to move to LA eventually, like that's like the end goal.
Is that the place?
But kind of like you were saying, especially, like you can do anything you want. We're all connected now. So I always try to tell people like, I don't know, man, you might just want to stay where you are. Like,
you can be based anywhere. Like unless if you mind like flights or whatever.
Right.
Because the other weird thing is that like when I was in America, like I started asking myself if like American artists think of leaving America, like the same way that the rest of the world always thinks of like.
I don't think they do.
Way.
Really,
it's not on the same. Yeah. It's not the same, because America's so big. You could just like go around and around.
It's so big, and I think we just think we're the center of the world. Like
of course, of course. That's very true. Yeah. It's like champion of the world. It's like wow, what?
I don't know, man. Yeah,
but like there's that, and like. For me, it's just like if I need to be in LA, I'll come to LA.
Yeah.
And I'll do what I need to do there, and I'll go back home. It's like, the flight is long, so it's so what, man? Like fuck. So it's just that for me. Like I wanna be able to build something, at home, so that maybe the next. Like another kid doesn't have to craft as hard as me.
Yeah, I love that, man.
Because that's the beautiful thing about America, is that like artists they have built in America. There's like institutions and buildings named after people that have done certain things, and there's artists that have their own halls named after them and all that stuff in their hometowns. And through that, you get to go to LA and go to like West Side LA or wherever, and like you seeing these like creative kids at like 18, 19, just like all of them are creative. All of them are like confident that they want to do and try something with their lives because they're surrounded by
right.
it. So I want that for a kid. Yeah.
Man, I love that, man. And I mean, I guess that kind of, as we're like bringing it home here, that makes me want to ask you, like, what are you doing right now? Like, what are you working on? What are you excited about? Like, what's the most fun part of what you do right now?
Oh man. I don't know, playing the new music in my car. Like that's what I've been doing ever since I got back. Because I've been creating like mad, man. But I'm excited about like new music, man. I think me going to America like and doing that like helped me a lot with just, I don't know, after the pandemic also, like I think like we all got hit, especially with I guess our vocation during that time when we were like shit, like fuck am I gonna do with my life? So it's like so I think it's really cool to, I don't know, go and see, to actually experience how far my music has gone, and that like what I do is doing what I wanted to do, which is like that feeling thing. So I'm excited about like, I don't know, that sort of new level of confidence that I have, and this new level of peace and understanding that what I do is important, and just like the creations that comes from that. That's gonna be mad interesting.
I mean, what does it look like for you to sitting down and writing a song day to day? Because I think, your catalog is pretty broad and you can work in a lot of different styles and all that. So like, do you have like a standard process for actually like getting in the studio and making a song?
No. It's very haphazard, man. It's like very like, I suck at like studio sessions. I'm so bad at studio sessions, bro. Like people like come to the studio, we'll make something. Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna be trash.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of relate. I know what you mean, man.
Because it's like it has a switch it on thing attached to it.
You're right, exactly.
And it's like if I need to be like in the space, right? I need to be in the space where I can follow it, like whatever this thing, like when you're creating an idea, it feels like hunt, like you're chasing this dragon. And it's like, I need to be able to follow that dragon without pressure.
Right.
And so my creative process is just different. Sometimes it's like a vocal melody idea that maybe ends up becoming the percussive part of the song. Or sometimes it's going back to an old idea and then you create a new idea out of that. Other times I'll sit here and literally make bad music, like make trash.
You have to,
And then, but like all of these things are like these little building blocks that lead me to that song.
Yeah.
So my creative process differs, like, because, like I'll be making a song and be like, oh, there's another idea I had. What if I take those vocals and put them in here and see what that sounds like? So it takes long, and I just have to like follow it until I feel like it's done.
And I mean, pulling back even from that, like when you're getting a group of songs together for an album, does the concept for the album come before, or do the songs kind of lead you in the direction of like what the album is going to be?
The songs lead me to the album. I wish I was like that. Like I have a friend, like he's named all his albums beforehand. Right. Like he does the thing. I can't do that, man. It needs to be honest to the time I'm in, the stories that I'm telling, or where I'm at in my life. Like, and for it to be that, I'm not good at like preconceiving the thing and seeing it. It usually like comes to me as I'm creating. It's like, like when you start playing certain songs and they just feel like they should go together.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll put them in the same folder. And then it's like this constant process of reducing.
Well,
like
that's interesting though, because you say you're not good at concepting it, but I think you are really good at this, like at the intuition part of it, the feeling of it. And so to me, that's like, well, no, you are good at it. You're just not you're not consciously thinking about it, but it's like something in the background is kind of doing it. You know what I mean?
I guess you're right. I guess it is like kind of shaping it. Like I'm shaping it in a way, but I guess I'm not as conscious of it. It always feels like, oh, this sounds good. Oh, this sounds good.
right.
And yeah, it always has this like just feeling of me trying to be honest with my feelings and where I'm at in my life. But I guess subconsciously, I do, I don't know, have these particular concepts that I want to get across.
Yeah, I think it comes through, man. Like because to me, like an album like Interblaktic, it not only is it cohesive, and I feel like I get the arc of the narrative and all of that, but then all the stuff you did around it too. Like I watched some of the like live stream performances you did, where it's you outside on like kind of that like mountainous terrain,
like a cave.
The cave. And like the crazy outfit you had on and all of that. Like it painted this picture where I was like, oh, I completely understand the context in which you meant this album, And I think that it's a hard thing to do, to like nail the tone that way. And it's just interesting to like hear that, not all of it was like architected from the start. You know what I mean?
Nah. It's like it just it's I don't know. It's like musical hippies or something. It's very much like, yo, man. I'm just gonna I need to follow it. Like before I come up with a music video, I need to listen to the song and like see it in my head. Oh yeah, that would be cool to do. Let's try that. Let's try this. And oh, this idea is fine exactly the way it is, and just put it up.
Right.
That's how I just like go with it. I guess they always sound cohesive because I'm just like telling my story as honestly as I can. So like there's these particular threads that keep it together. Even though maybe with genre, you wouldn't necessarily say that like it's the same genre, but because it's my hand and I'm doing it, it has like these sort of things that make it connect.
Yeah, it's the same person, right? And I think that's like a theme we've been talking about this whole time. Is like over time, I think a great artistic goal is to just become more authentically yourself each time you come out. And people feel it, man. I think that's right. What was just before we get out of here, how'd you meet Kaytranada? How'd you end up working with him on that too?
The internet again.
Okay, yeah.
so like people online or like would always just like tag us and be like, oh, you guys should do something, And I think he checked my music out and then he followed me and then I followed him back and then I hit him up. I was like, yo, you ought to do what the people want. That type of vibe. Yeah. And he was cool with it. So like we started sending each other ideas like back and forth. And we got to make that song. I know it. I was like, yeah, I have these vocals and stuff. And he sent me some drums and I sort of put it together. And that's how that came about. Again, like I didn't chase it, like neither did he. Yeah. It was just like perfect timing for that thing to happen. And it did. And it was great.
Yeah, well, and it's awesome that it started off just from random people asking for it. Like that's the best.
Yeah, man. So it was like it wasn't pushy from anyone's side. So it made sense, like sonically, like with the sort of house music stuff.
Hell yeah,
we do.
Man.
Like so it's cool.
Yeah, no, I love it. That song's great too, man. There's a lot of that album is really good, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, so I got one last question for you, but before I ask you, is there anything else we haven't talked about? Anything we didn't cover? Anything else you want to get out there before we wrap it up?
No, I think we talked about everything. yeah, I think like even when you're talking about Interblaktic, like the whole point of that is that like we're not in the future. You know, like it's like there's like Afrofuturism and there's like Black Panther and all of these like futuristic like things of like utopian Africa. No, like we're doing this shit now.
Right. Like if we ever want to get there, we have to do shit now.
Yeah, we're doing this shit now. It's like there is no. It can get to a point where it's like, yo, Africa is gonna be really dope in the future.
Right.
You know, and it's like, no, it's dope now. So it's like the idea of like that these things that people are seeing, whether it's like from like African designers or African actors or comedians, so it's happening now in real time.
Yeah.
There is no like this future where like Black people or African people, oh yeah, they become cool. Nah, we've been cool for like forever.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like that idea like of I don't know, just sending that message out. Yes, I am Zulu, but I love dance music. I also skateboard. It's like it is not like monolithic.
Right.
It's not like this one linear thing of what people think, and then they sort of see this picture in their head, and that's it.
Yeah, that's really interesting, man, because a couple things on that is it makes me think about, you know, you said when you were younger, music was like an escape for you. And then at a certain point, it stopped being an escape, right? Which that makes me think about what you're talking about now with the Afrofuturism aesthetic of like, you know, this like sort of mythical, like magical, like Africa that doesn't exist yet. Is like, I could totally see that being for some people like an escape, or at least like a mental way to be like, it's okay that it's not great now, right? Like, or it's okay to ignore problems now.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it is a dope thing, man. It is good to like look into the future.
Of course.
And see ourselves
I mean, dude, you're talking to a giant sci-fi nerd. Yeah.
I'm a super sci-fi nerd, you know, like, so like I think it's amazing, but like I also think history is important. I also think the present is important. And I think like before Afrofuturism was a term, they used to say Africa's future before they actually futurism became a word. Or whatever, Africa is now,
right.
But that's been like since Fela Kuti's time. You know, it's always been like, yeah, no, you guys definitely up next. Get definitely up next. And it's like, yo, but the standard has been up the same way. Just because there is not like the same level of infrastructure doesn't mean the music isn't as good.
Right.
You know, so like that's pretty much like people like me and other artists that think in a similar way. That's like our mission. That's why people are hearing so much from Africa right now. Because we're like, yo, literally a plane ticket away.
Right.
Since you don't want to come here, we come and you know, it's like we're gonna come and show you, okay, this is what we do back at home.
Yeah, man. And it's interesting we're talking about this right now, because in America, like in the American like EDM scene, especially since the pandemic and since George Floyd and all of that, there's been a conversation in the EDM scene that I don't think we've seen really the results yet, but you know the EDM scene, especially in America, Europe to a certain extent too, it's so white, and there's really not a lot of diversity for this art form that Black people created, right? Like house music, techno music, all of that. And so there has been a lot of discourse about, you know, these festival lineups need to get more diverse, you know, these like who's getting the spotlight, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it's interesting to talk about it in like thinking about where you are and your music, because maybe that's a better way to frame it is like, no, just like look at what's being done right now, as opposed to talking about like, you know, what we want it to look like 10 years from now. Like focus on right now.
If people just like look around, they will literally find so much more than what's been like constantly like, I guess, sold to them. And I guess a lot of artists have understood that even in the asking of, yo, it should be more diverse and it should be this, like that can take so long because it's always like dependent on the next man.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, I don't know when I'm gonna die, bro. Like I know, you know, like I don't know. So I'm gonna go get that myself, you know, for my career. Like I'm no Superman. I'm not gonna change the world or anything like that. But I'm gonna try to go and get like people that resonate with what I do instead of waiting for someone to discover me.
Right, yeah, or someone to,
you know what I'm saying?
put
to
you
put
on.
me on something.
Yeah, there you go.
Rather put me on whilst I'm also moving.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
man.
like so I'd rather do that. Like I'm too busy creating my own table.
Dude, that's what it is. That's what it is, man. And you know, you were talking too about like doing it locally and building the shit you want to see in the world. And that, I think that's the only thing any of us can do is like, you know, like talking about all this stuff is great and that's valuable too. But it's really, for me, the older I get, it's like, no, it really comes down to like, what are you doing?
Are you going to do it or not?
Yeah. Are you going to do it or not? That's it.
Are you going to do it or not, bro? Like it's that simple, you know, like, and usually when you put your mind to something, like doors start like opening up, you know, like not everyone that started a big idea always had money to start that big idea or whatever, but you get lucky, you get good friends, so you get good people around you, and like you're able to move it through. It takes longer, but you're able to do what you like wanted to do.
That's the thing. You'll be happier, you'll be more fulfilled. Like doing this shit is stressful, man. And it's like, well, if you're not gonna do
it is.
If you're not gonna do the thing that gives you the most like validation or enjoyment or whatever it is, then why do it? You know?
Yeah, you know, and it is obviously it's like I understand like how the world is, because sometimes when people say that, it could be like, oh, that's easy for you to say or whatever, you know. But like it is something that like maybe is important to like let people know, you know, like the understanding of as much as it's your dream, like you can't be a slave to it. Like you have to have time for yourself.
Yeah.
Because the world is hard, you know, and the industry is harder. And it's like, you know, and like, but because every artist has this point where like their heart breaks, where you realize that the art and the commerce doesn't mix.
Oh man, yeah. That's a tough one. Yeah.
Because you have so much love for the arts and like you're meeting other people that love the art, but like there's this market part of it, and it's either you learn and you understand it and you learn how where you fit in it, or it literally like drowns you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so it's like that thing, and having that sort of balance that like sort of, I'm a musician, but it's not like all I am, you know, and you can separate yourself from it just to be like whoever you are to like people.
Yeah. Well, and you realize sometimes, you know, I think another thing everyone realizes at one point or another is that when we all start out, it's like, like the better I get, the bigger I get, the more money I'll get, like everything, it's all tied together and it'll all be great. But at a certain point, you realize that like, oh, sometimes the shit that makes the most money isn't the best shit, or isn't the best, or isn't like the stuff that means the most to me, you know? And that's another tough moment.
Man, it becomes a tough moment because like you get your bag and it's like, oh, this is nice, and it's like, yo, damn, that was a bit.
It's like, well, I don't feel happier, you know? Like,
you know, and like it's all these like. That's why I've gotten to that point where I really, really see it as a blessing. Because if you're not in a good place, you could be playing for like 20,000 people right now and not realize what that actually is.
Absolutely.
You're playing in front of 20,000 people. There was a point where you played in front of nobody.
Yeah.
And it's like that thing, you and the people that helped get you there. That's a moment to celebrate in and of itself. But you could be in this like industry state of mind where it's just like another gig.
Right.
How is 2,000 another gig? It's not.
Absolutely.
It's not.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, man. And
it's not. So that appreciation thing, I think like is something that I'm glad I have for like myself in this crazy industry of ours.
Yeah. Well, and you know, you asked me earlier, like advice I had gotten or things I noticed. One thing this wasn't really advice someone told me, but just watching and being around enough super, super successful artists and performers that do big, crazy shows, you realize so many of them are not that happy as people. And just watching that over time, that was a good lesson, man. Because, when I was young, that's all I wanted to do was like be the biggest fucking artist of all time, be on every stage. And then when I saw people doing that and saw how like miserable some of them were, I was like, oh, well, maybe I should really diversify my interests a little bit here.
Yeah, man. Like maybe I should like just expand on my dreams a little bit. Like, what's going on? Because another thing is when like you shadow an artist or you become like part of a bigger artist like entourage, and you see them maybe go with them like a weekend and in a random Saturday, like they have like 6 shows.
Yeah.
By the time they get to the 6th show, that show is trash.
Yeah.
Bah!
Absolutely.
Because it's like, you're going to get tired. I don't care like how much money you can make or whatever. Like the last show you do, the worst I've done is 4 shows in one day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never doing this shit again.
Yeah, that's tough. I've done like, 4 in a day. That's my max too. And that's crazy.
It's tough, man. It's tough, bro. And it's like that thing of, I guess, being able to know that you're human first and that this is your job.
Yeah.
And if you were to quantify the number of hours you work versus like someone that has like a normal job, like you would like be like, why the fuck am I doing so much?
Exactly.
Like I'm doing a lot and I just love being able to like balance it out, man, and still do things that like there was a point in my life where I was like, when I start making some money, I'll be able to play games.
Right.
And then now I have a PlayStation and I'm not playing it because I'm too busy.
Right.
Yeah. I need time to enjoy like the toys that I can get from this gift of mine. And that sort of balance so that I'm not the friend that's always crashing. I'm not the dad that's always crashing and all that stuff. I'm still able to play my parts as a human being. And I just so happen to have this job where I need to go in front of hundreds of people and entertain them.
Yeah, man. And that'll make you happier and like more fulfilled at the end of the day anyway, having that kind of balance.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
man. Because that's the good thing about like, I guess the long road for me was being able to see other artists that at some points I thought I wanted to be like.
Right.
And you see that life and you're like, man, nope.
Exactly.
Not for me.
Exactly, man.
Not for me, man. Not for me.
Well, fuck, man. I mean, I love what you're doing and the way you're doing it, man. And I'm really stoked to see what comes next for you, man. And I'm glad we got to do this, man. This has been super fun.
Yeah, man, it was really nice. And it was a real conversation too. You're right.
100%, man.
Yeah.
Well, this is the last question. I ask this at the end of each one of these conversations. Just looking for a moment from your life, like a memory from your life. And it could be from any time, like when you were a kid or yesterday, anytime, when in that moment, in that memory, music really hit you hard, really like had a deep impact, was meaningful to you in that moment. And that's supposed to be like a really broad question. There's no wrong answer.
Hit me hard, like in a good way, like really like touch me.
It could be good. It could be bad. It could be, like maybe it soundtracked a moment unexpectedly.
Yeah. 2 moments come into mind. Like first one, I'm like 12 years old or 13.
Okay.
And I'm sleeping and it's like 2 a.m. in the morning or whatever. Like my brother's watching TV. Like we somehow like rolled the, you remember those big ass TVs with like,
yeah.
with the back part?
Yeah.
So we rolled that somehow into like our bedroom or whatever. And my brother was like up watching music videos or whatever. And Coldplay Clocks comes on. And I think we were watching like VH1 or something.
Right.
And like that moment for me, like I woke up, like I was asleep. So I started hearing it in my dream. I woke up and in that moment, it was like the most beautiful song I've ever heard at that time. And it's still like one of my favorite songs of all time. So that's one moment. So that was very like a beautiful moment. And then there was a moment where I think with the performance thing, before it hit me that I should just when they cut my set,
right.
I felt like music fucked me that day. Like I was like, you fucking like I practice hard.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, so in my head I'm having that, like, it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Like all of that,
angry,
and it's
frustrated. You worked so hard to get there. Yeah,
and I wasn't blaming like the promoters or whatever. Like it was almost like I was blaming myself in this like weird way where you always like see yourself as like the cause of the issue.
Yeah.
And in that moment I saw it, I was like, fuck. Like, why? Like I could have fucking continued varsity and finished school and become something else, whatever.
Yeah, like, just in that moment I was just like, this?
Yeah. I'm like, why? Like, who in the world can DJ in 5 minutes? Like, what the fuck is going on? Oh shit, you could get on the mic. Yeah, I could get on the mic.
Right.
And then that's how that happened. But like the chain of thought that led there was just like the most fucked up thing. It was just like,
man.
Man.
Well, I love that story though, man, because that's always how it goes. It's like, the whatever struggle it is, whatever frustration, if you let that happen and like lean into that, there's something on the other side of it.
Out. Yeah. Usually it works out, because like I could have just left. Like, I'm not gonna play for 5 minutes.
Yeah. And like and
it was like 6,000 people that day. I was like, I'm not gonna.
Well, and not only do you like, manage to like pull off a cool show under those circumstances, but like that's you evolving as an artist in real time. Yeah. Like that's crazy. Most people, it takes a long time, but to have that kind of like light bulb moment where you just all of a sudden it's like, oh no, like I'm adding this to the things I can do and allowing myself to be this kind of artist. I mean, that's amazing, man, to just have that in a moment.
Yeah, man. Like, so it was really building, even though in the moment it sucked, like, but it was really building for me because not a lot bothers me anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the first time, like, when the first time someone lets you down in the music industry, it hurts.
Oh,
like
yeah.
And then you get used to it.
Yeah, then it just happens enough that you kind of get
used to it. You're like that.
Right.
It's like, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
So it gets to this point where like nothing really bothers you. It's more so like, okay, how do you move around this?
Yeah.
Like you're always thinking of like these loopholes now. So yeah, it was an important part.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing too. And for anybody listening who's into music or trying to get into music, I think that's a really good piece of advice, that you're going to have a lot of frustrating moments and a lot of the times that don't go your way or don't go the way you wanted. And I think rather than struggling and trying to like change that or prevent that, what you're talking about, and I think it's the smartest thing you can do, is just accept it. Like, be like, okay, this one didn't go my way, but like, we're going to stay here and we're just going to see what happens and keep pushing. And like you said, oftentimes that you'll find pretty quickly that there's something on the other side that maybe you wouldn't have seen before.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's like, why don't we get like as excited when something good happens?
Yeah.
Why is it always when it's the bad thing that happens that has to send your emotions through the roof?
Right.
And it's like, when it's something that's good, you're just like, oh yeah, what's next? Like, oh, fuck that, bro. I'm chilling on this moment too. Like, so it's like learning that thing. Like, of course you're gonna have bad days. But like, you need to know your why, like, because I think if you start without like knowing why you're doing something, then you kind of don't have a foundation anyways. So anything could lead you astray. Like a good thing could end up being a bad thing for you.
Oh man.
You get a deal and it's like amazing, but like maybe there's no more music coming out of you anymore because it's not real to you. So now you're in a fucked up position.
Yeah.
$1 million.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or maybe you made the deal with the wrong people or, whatever it is. Just you were looking at the wrong part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like bad things are obviously gonna happen. All of us have made mistakes. All of us have done maybe some songs that we don't like, some songs that we like more than others.
Right.
Like, you hear someone else's song and you're like, shit, that's so, I wish I could do that. I'm not that good, or whatever. All of those thoughts are gonna always happen. But the same amount of attention that I pay to those thoughts, I pay the same amount of attention to the good ones too.
Man.
and
that's it. That's
so
the
there
key.
has to, yeah.
That's absolutely
Or else
key.
I'm not going to survive. I'm not going to stay safe.
Right.
If that's the case, I'm not.
That's it, man. Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's a really nice way to wrap it up, man, because that kind of covers everything we've been talking about.
Bro.
Dude, thank you, man. This has been really fun. I'm super glad. It's so funny, man, because we've known each other on and off for like a decade, but then just
it's a decade. It's 10 years now.
I just met you in person for the first time like a month ago. So it's great, man. It's really nice to reconnect after 10 years.
Yeah, man. It was really cool. I was like, oh shit, Willy Joy. That's fine. That's really cool, dog. Yeah. Yeah, man. It's dope, bro.
Yeah, this is great, man. Well, hope we run into each other again soon, man. Don't be a stranger.
No, of course. I'm definitely coming back there, bro.
Yeah.
The tour, like, I saw that there's like a clear, like, there's a market there.
Yeah.
And like, there's people that love me there. And there's things I can build on. So I'm definitely coming back.
Perfect, man. Well, take care. Have a good rest of your night, man. Great talking with you.
Thank you so much, bro. Enjoy your day, man.
All right. Take care. Peace.